You check your phone 150 times a day. You don't remember deciding to. Your thumb just moves, your eyes just drift. And somewhere underneath that motion, a part of your brain that is older than language is quietly convinced it's saving your life. That sounds dramatic. It isn't. It's biology. Your brain was built for a world that no longer exists. Every alert, every notification, every flash of red on a screen is answered by machinery that was designed on the savannah, refined in the Ice Age, and never once updated for Wi-Fi. You are running Paleolithic software on a smartphone-shaped body. And the mismatch between the two is why you feel anxious for no reason, hooked on things that don't help you, and exhausted in a world that is, by every historical measure, easier than any your ancestors survived. So why does it feel so hard? Start with fear. Your ancestors lived in a world of real, immediate threats. A rustle in tall grass could be wind. It could also be a leopard. The humans who survived long enough to become your ancestors were the ones whose brains treated every rustle as a leopard until proven otherwise. Being wrong about the wind cost nothing. Being wrong about the leopard cost everything. So evolution built you an alarm system that is deliberately, permanently oversensitive. That system still runs. It just doesn't have leopards anymore. Instead, it has emails, deadlines, a text message that says, "We need to talk." Your amygdala, the almond-shaped alarm center buried in your brain, cannot tell the difference between a predator in the grass and a red notification badge. Neuroscientist Robert Sapolsky spent decades studying stress in wild baboons and found something strange. Baboons get stressed the way humans do, not from immediate danger, but from social threats, a demotion in rank, an unresolved conflict. The stress hormones flood their bodies exactly as if a lion were chasing them, even though nothing is chasing them at all. Sound familiar? Your body cannot rest because your body doesn't know the war is over. Now think about food. You crave sugar and fat with an intensity that feels almost involuntary. It is involuntary. For nearly the entire history of your species, calories were scarce and unpredictable. A ripe fruit or a piece of fat marbled meat might be the difference between surviving the winter and not. So your brain evolved a reward system that treats sugar and fat as jackpots, flooding you with dopamine every time you find them. That reward system never learned. Scarcity ended. It still fires exactly as hard for a bag of chips as it once did for a rare, life-saving feast. Nothing about your neurology has updated to reflect the fact that calories are now available in unlimited quantities, 24 hours a day, at a gas station down the street. The hunger evolved for scarcity. The world evolved into abundance. You are left holding both. Here's where it gets stranger. Your need for other people works the same way. British anthropologist Robin Dunbar studied primate brain size against social group size and found a striking pattern. The larger a primate's neocortex, the larger the social group it could stably manage. For humans, that number lands around 150. Not a coincidence. A ceiling. Your brain evolved to track roughly 150 relationships, remembering who owed you a favor, who could be trusted, who might betray you. Now you're expected to maintain that system across 300 Instagram followers, a group chat with 40 people, and a newsfeed showing you the joys and traumas of thousands of strangers a day. Your social brain was built for a village. You're asking it to run a city. That is why scrolling feels compulsive rather than optional. Every post is processed by circuitry built to track village-sized alliances, and your brain has no category for stranger I will never meet but whose vacation photo just appeared. So it treats it like village information anyway. Is she doing better than me? Is he a threat? Should I respond? Multiply that by hundreds of faces a day, and you get a nervous system running at a pace it was never built to sustain. Which raises an uncomfortable question. If your instincts are this outdated, can you trust any of them? Not blindly. But you don't need to discard them either. Evolutionary biologist Daniel Lieberman, who studies what he calls mismatch diseases, has a simpler way to put it. Your body isn't broken. It's just answering a question nobody is asking anymore. The impulse to hoard calories, to fear social exclusion, to seek novelty and stimulation, all of it made perfect sense for 10,000 generations. It only became a problem in the last 200 years, an eye blink in evolutionary time, when the environment changed faster than biology ever could. You are not weak. You are not broken. You are ancient hardware running in a world your hardware has never seen before. Think about what that reframes. The anxiety you feel before a meeting isn't a character flaw. It's a threat detection system doing exactly what it was built to do, just aimed at the wrong target. The late-night craving for something sweet isn't a failure of willpower. It's a famine-era survival mechanism, working perfectly in an era with no famine. The compulsive need to check your phone isn't a personal weakness. It's a social tracking instinct, evolved for a village of 150, drowning in a feed of millions. So what do you actually do with that? You stop fighting your instincts and you start out designing them. You cannot delete the alarm system that treats deadlines like leopards, but you can stop feeding it 100 false alarms a day through constant notifications. You cannot switch off the reward circuit that lights up for sugar and fat, but you can stop stocking your kitchen with a jackpot every time you open the fridge. You cannot resize your social brain back down to 150, but you can choose, deliberately, which 150 actually get your attention. This is the quiet, uncomfortable truth underneath almost every modern struggle. It was never a war against laziness. It was a mismatch between the environment you evolved for and the environment you actually live in. And once you see it that way, discipline stops looking like willpower and starts looking like design. No fighting the ancient brain, building a world it can actually succeed in. Because the leopard was never really the problem. The problem was that the grass never stopped rustling. Let's go deeper, because the mismatch runs further than fear, food, and friendship. It runs through the way you sleep, the way you move, and even the way you rest. Consider light. For nearly the entire span of human existence, darkness meant one thing: stop. Fire was rare and precious. When the sun went down, activity went down with it. Your brain evolved the hormone, melatonin, that rises with darkness and tells every cell in your body it's time to power down. That system worked flawlessly for 100,000 years. Then, in the span of a single century, humans invented the light bulb, the television, and the phone screen glowing 4 inches from your face at midnight. Your melatonin system has no idea what a phone is. It only knows one thing: light means day. So it holds off. It delays the very process that lets you fall asleep, convinced that if the sun is still out, there's no reason to shut down yet. You lie in bed exhausted and wired at the same time, and it feels like a personal failure. It isn't. It's ancient software misreading a screen as a second sunrise. Now think about movement. Your ancestors didn't exercise. They didn't need to. Survival required walking for miles to find food, carrying water, building shelter, chasing or fleeing when the moment demanded it. Movement wasn't a choice bolted onto the day. It was the day. Your body evolved to expect a baseline of near constant physical effort, and in return, it rewards movement with a cascade of mood-stabilizing chemicals, dopamine, serotonin, endorphins, all tuned to a level of activity that almost nobody alive today actually reaches. Daniel Lieberman, the same evolutionary biologist who studies mismatched diseases, has spent years documenting hunter-gatherer populations who still live something close to that ancestral pace. What he found again and again is that chronic diseases like heart disease, diabetes, and even some forms of depression are almost non-existent in societies that move the way your body still expects you to move. Not because those societies eat perfectly, because their bodies are finally getting what they were designed for. You sit at a desk for 9 hours. Then you wonder why you feel restless, foggy, and low, without ever connecting it back to a body built for open ground, quietly starving for motion it never receives. There's a deeper layer still, one that touches almost everything else: your need for meaning. It sounds abstract, almost philosophical, but it's every bit as evolved as hunger or fear. For most of human history, survival was inseparable from purpose. You gathered food because your group would starve without it. You built shelter because your children would freeze without it. Contribution and survival were the same act. There was no separating what I do from why it matters, because the two were fused together by necessity. Now imagine spending 8 hours answering emails that vanish into a server, for a task whose outcome you'll never see, for a company that would replace you within a week. Your ancestral brain, the The same one that expects contribution to matter for the tribe's survival has no framework for that kind of disconnected labor. It searches for meaning in the loop and finds none, and the result isn't laziness. It's a starvation of a very specific, very old psychological need. This is why a walk in nature can feel more restorative than a nap. Why helping a stranger can lift your mood faster than an entire day of leisure. Why raising a child, despite the exhaustion, still registers to something ancient inside you as deeply, unmistakably right. These aren't accidents. They're the oldest reward circuits you have, still firing exactly as designed, still recognizing the handful of activities that once meant survival. So here's the real question underneath all of this. If nearly every discomfort you feel, the anxiety, the cravings, the exhaustion, the aimlessness, traces back to old circuitry meeting a new world, does that mean you've stopped fighting your own biology forever? No. It means you finally know what you're negotiating with. You don't win this by willpower alone, gritting your teeth against instincts that are millions of years older than your conscious mind. You win by designing an environment that speaks your ancient brain's language. You dim the lights an hour before bed, because darkness is the only argument your melatonin system has ever understood. You build movement into your day in small, unavoidable doses, because your body still expects it whether you schedule it or not. You choose fewer, deeper relationships over a feed of thousands, because your social brain was never built to hold a crowd. You attach your daily effort to something you can actually see change, because meaning was never optional, it was load-bearing. None of this requires becoming someone new. It requires understanding the very old someone you already are. Your brain was built for a world that no longer exists, but you're not stuck living inside the mismatch forever. You're simply the first generation in history equipped to actually see it, name it, and quietly rebuild your days around it. And that, more than any hack or habit, might be the one advantage your ancestors never had. If this made you see your own habits a little differently, that was the point. You're not broken. You're just running old software in a new world, and now you know it. If this helped, hit like, it tells me to make more of these. Subscribe if you want to keep understanding yourself a little better each week, and if you want to support the channel directly, there's a link below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.